And from the moment that the concept of Healthy Stride was put into being, the actual concept of the A-frames that we sort of figured out as a balancing point, all of that concept is exactly intact today. It is never veered, although every day it seems like we improve in our techniques and we improve in watching a horse come in. Just the other day I worked on 3 separate horses. All 3 had separate issues. And instead of having to go over the whole horse, one of them I went straight to her face and worked on her TMJ and her atlas, you know, and found it all to be completely out, you know, worked on the balancing of the body, suggested, you know, the chiropractor to come in and work on these things. And, you know, that afternoon when everything was fixed, all was perfect, you know. Worked on another horse and I went straight between his hind legs into his hamstring area and showed the owner how to massage the hamstrings in order to relax the back end. And we didn't do anything else, and now the horse was standing 1.5 foot wide behind.
Wow.
You know, now this allowed us to start to trim the horse correctly,
right,
to allow him to go this way, because it wasn't bad barefoot trimming, it wasn't bad riding, it was tight muscles that abducted the foot inwards. And this forced him to have an outside wall landing and reducing the growth on the outside and increasing the growth on the inside because it was not bearing weight. And this got the horse to rope walk. Now that's not the only reason. Sometimes we trim too much off the back end, or sometimes we put a saddle on that fits in correctly and it sort of draws the horse up in a little bit. And when you draw him in his withers and in the spinal process, when you put him in too tight there, it forces him to sort of rope walk, and you know, you sort of walk a little bit tighter that way.
Yeah, kind of bound up.
Yeah, and so of all of those, walking too tight, you know, very very tight muscles, which would come from, you know, improper saddle fit, improper trimming, you know, create a horse to have an unbalanced landing. And then the wreck is on. The horse doesn't have a chance to fix himself, because in the wild theory, the horse, and a lot of people are not aware of this, they think about it as soon as I mention it, they realize it is, but the horse is, in the horse course, when we're talking about this, we're talking about zebra, donkey, mule, you know, everybody in this process, is the only animal that actually exfoliates its own feet. It grows foot, breaks it off, exfoliates it in the rain, you know. And so a horse probably that is never trimmed, that is in a perfect environment like the wild horse, for its purpose, you know,
right, keeps
his feet wore off. And when the winter comes and the ground is real soft and there's no resistance, he grows a little extra foot, a little extra sole depth, a little extra frog size, you know. And then the spring of the year, the grass really pops out green, you know, and the grass is full of nutrients, you know. So now he starts to really grow some foot,
right,
you know. And now all of a sudden the spring is here and the rain stopped. Now the drought started to come in, and now he's able to break off his foot back to his normal. Well, what we do wrong in trimming is we start at one end of the foot and trim all the excess foot off. And whatever problem the horse had, he still has. Right. The horse that works on his own self breaks off the highest part first.
That's right.
Then the next highest part, and the next highest part, and all of a sudden he's almost level. And so he has balanced himself, and he may have this much foot on one side and no foot on the other. But now he's level, and he's starting to carry equal weight on both front feet, equal weight on both hind feet, and equal weight medially, laterally on the hoof capsule, you know, creating optimum blood supply around the whole foot,
right,
and optimum blood return back up the leg through the veins, you know. And so I don't think that we take enough of this into consideration, what should happen to a horse naturally,
right,
you know, and we tend to focus too much on what we find in a book, and don't research, does what's in this book actually fit me and my horse? It may perfectly fit your best friend, but it doesn't necessarily fit you and your horse. Maybe a complete different breed, a complete different posture problem. You know, horses have scoliosis. Horses have all kinds of same problems that we have, you know.
Yeah.
And so we take those things into consideration, and you add what you know about the wild and the nature, and in a holistic approach to the balance of the horse, and when you put all these together, you can actually build your own very easily barefoot approach. And I have a lot of customers that, because of the low high shoulder, trim their high shoulder foot every 2 weeks, and they trim their low shoulder foot once every 6 weeks. And now this keeps the excess growth from the high shoulder. Now both scapulars are the same height.
Right.
And so the low shoulder scapular, the hoof controlling the low scapular,
Yeah.
the trimming is more cosmetic than it is taking depth away from it.
Right.
Same thing in the back end.
Yeah.
And so in controlling breakover, you see horses that are toed out or horses that are toed in, and if you think about what happens to this horse in the wild and think about trimming him that way, instead of starting at one end of his foot and trimming him all the way around,
Right.
sometimes we just need to trim what is just necessary that Mother Nature would take off anyhow, and let this horse get balanced. Once a horse is perfectly balanced, his foot doesn't truthfully grow that incredibly fast, because it's equally weighted all the way around.
Right.
And so that in itself aids. So from the barefoot prospect, just learning these things. Now, there's some great barefoot guys out there that have learned a lot and share some fabulous information, and I study what they do. I try my best to be a student of those who are successful in the equine world, in the shoeing and the barefoot trimming, and I apply lots of what I learned from them, and then some of it I take and look at it and say, this theory doesn't work for what I want to do, because if I trim this way, if this horse has an issue, when I get through trimming, I'm going to have a beautifully trimmed foot, but he's still got the same issue.
Right. So it'll look nice.
Yeah.
But there will be no
And
function.
why does when I ask my horse to canter, his head goes straight up?
Yeah.
His head goes up because his back hollows out. Why does his back hollow out? Because he has no natural heels to support the frame of the horse,
Right.
And so when he starts to land, and he's very low heeled, he lands, and then his fetlock has such a long ways to come down, and by the time by this time his body has moved on, and his leg is just now recoiling,
Right.
and so we work on a lot of those things, but everything that we talk about we share with our owners and in the barefoot trimmers, and then we do a lot of casting and glue-ons, and we actually have an exciting thing happening here just in another month or so. The Epona people from California are coming out, and they're bringing shoes and glues and things, and they're going to actually do a glue-on Epona demonstration.
Great.
And Brandon has had some really great success with it, and sort of created this thing, and they met Pat out in California at the whatever that deal was they went out to, where Cowboy Reunion, what I'm trying to think of, Well, they met him, and Pat was very complimentary of us, and how open-minded we were, and so we returned the call to them, and so that's going to be a good thing,
That sounds
And
really
we do a lot of casting, a lot of different kind of things, and so yeah, it's a little bit of what we do.